Now we're live. And it's facing the right direction.
Maybe hit refresh on yours.
Here we go.
All right,
A bit
so
of a delay.
this is case in point why we are going live kind of unannounced, is because
We don't need an audience so much for the pain.
yeah, I mean, the only way you learn how to do something is you start doing it. So we are approaching the 1 year mark for Homestead. So on eBay, not
Yeah.
Homestead as a whole, but Homestead on eBay. And so, obviously one of the things we talked about doing was to go live. We have discussed about potentially going live every Thursday at noon. We're open to feedback if that's just a terrible idea for everybody. But
Or
we also-
anybody who sees this.
Yeah, but it's important that we actually are capable of doing it ourselves. So
Right.
so
So we're old.
I'm
So
at
we
the-
don't do 9 o'clock at night very well.
Yeah, look at me, look at me, look at me, and I don't need to be trying to go live at 9, 10 o'clock at night. And usually, just being honest, because we have a pretty wide open week. Usually by Saturday evening, I'm pretty wiped out, and that's just not going to be a good time for me to do it either. So, for us, we're a little late because we figured some stuff out, but it is.
But kudos to us for getting it figured out.
Yeah, I mean, we're actually,
We think we're live.
we think we're live. I mean, if there's anybody out there,
If anybody's out there,
I don't think they are, but
message us because I apparently don't have the right screen up, and I'm seeing the same view anyone else out there is seeing. But I can read the chat, and that's the reason why I have it pulled up here. So
yeah, so
say hi, send us some love if you were just hanging out and listening to us.
yeah, or if you watch this later, you can. I think you can still comment or chat
Yeah,
somehow.
I think the chat stays live.
But one of the reasons why we wanted to start going live is because we are approaching that 1 year mark, and we have a little bit, that we can share with people who are just starting out, who have no idea. They're considering the possibility of doing this as a side gig. I don't want to use the word side hustle because we're
We're
too old.
anti-hustle.
Yeah, we're too old to hustle anymore.
We're old enough to know what the hustle is.
Yeah.
The original hustle.
So it is a lot, but that's for a different time. So I'm currently sitting here with a notepad in front of me and just getting started and thinking about ideas to discuss. But we say we're up to 20 pages.
20 pages, yeah.
So we have tons of stuff that we can discuss. And what we want to try to do is provide a service for those who are considering this as a possibility. Maybe you don't even have an eBay account. Maybe you've never sold anything on eBay.
That's true. Well, but here's the other thing too, though. Even if you're already on eBay and you are seasoned, we need that. So I would say my major desire in doing this is to create community. It's for we have conversations all day long, every day. And if you don't believe us, ask our adult children. They probably get sick of hearing about eBay, but we're constantly talking about strategies and what's the best practices and how should we do this and change that. And we follow a lot of people on YouTube, but we've learned that there's a lot of wisdom out there. So I don't want to badmouth anybody. There's a lot of information out there, but I don't feel like there's a lot that we have found where people are talking to beginners and talking to people who aren't looking for a hustle. We would love to make 6 figures, but that's not our goal.
Right now, that's for sure.
It's definitely not happening right now. Our goal is something much smaller. Our goal is a comfortable life. And by comfortable, I don't mean luxurious. I mean working at a pace that's not easy, not lazy necessarily, but doable and doesn't stress us out. And we've encountered some things, especially in the first few months, that stressed us out.
Yeah, I've had enough of the stressed out workspace. You know, just to kind of give you some backstory, I've been in construction. Seems like for eternity, but I started off doing stuff for my grandfather's company and my uncle's company, and so before I could even drive, I was doing stuff on a construction site, and that's all I ever wanted to do. I enjoyed every bit of it. I did end up going to college for a construction degree. I have different opinions about that now.
Very different.
Yeah, because I really felt like when I was going to get that degree, I was going to get one that taught me how to have a construction business. And to be honest, what it did, and what most degrees do is teach you how to work for somebody else. And so if you haven't figured that out yet, that's a discussion for a different time. But I ultimately wanted to have my own business. And so I have been, doing this for, 40 plus years or more. I can't remember anymore. And
more than 40 years now.
In some version of construction, real estate, Hope's a licensed real estate agent. We're both licensed insurance agents. That's a discussion for a different time. Something we don't do. But I got very ill a couple years ago. And to be honest, I wasn't really sure if I was going to survive it. And when I did survive it, I realized I can no longer do the type of work I did, even though I was
physically or mentally.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously was at a point in my life where I was doing mostly managerial type stuff, but on site. And guess what? It gets hot outside, or it gets cold, depends on the time of the year. And I would have, on the low end, I would have 30-something houses going at the same time. On the high end, was I like up to 150 one time? It was a ridiculous
I know,
number.
it was
ridiculous
a ton
number.
of projects that you were responsible for.
And I literally was working 7 days a week when I was doing that. And so, anyway, long story short, is that my wife had already started this process of what we call Homestead. And so the goal was to lean up our lives so that we would be able to do what we really wanted to do, not what we were forced to do, but we wanted to lean up and get ourselves in a situation where we could live a life that we wanted to live. At the time, we were living in the city. We didn't have a very big backyard. We couldn't even really let our Labrador Retriever out alone.
Oh no, not this one.
And so we did have a cat at the time or whatever, but like we wanted, chickens, and we didn't even know we wanted pigs or anything else. And so we now, and it's been a painful journey, but we now live on 26 acres. We jumped into all kinds of stuff. And so this is having the cart before the horse, we had hundreds of chickens and tons of pigs and
Not tons.
Well, for us,
they ended up being a ton of.
Yeah, weight-wise. But, we didn't grow up farmers. Our parents were not farmers. I don't really know. I know that my grandfathers, they were gardeners, but there's a whole nother subject about whether you are someone who likes to raise vegetables or animals. Totally different thing. We find out we like to raise animals more than...
or we're better at raising animals.
Yeah, we can keep those alive.
I don't have a green thumb, but I can.
We can keep those alive.
I can kind of. Animals let you know what they need a little more so than plants do.
So it was a really hard transition. We moved from pretty large house with a full basement that was packed full. Actually, we had multiple rental houses, and that's a whole nother discussion for a different time. But we now live in a 1-bedroom, 1-bath over a 2-car garage, and we found out that's really all we need. Now, this has been a painful transition, and we are still working on that transition, but I would highly recommend it. And if you're interested in that conversation, we can have it later. But
But it was that transition
that started
to downsize that put us in the position where we basically discovered eBay.
Yeah, well, what I went through a really rough time where, we did sell some rental houses. So, being unemployed at the time, I was trying to figure out what my next adventure was.
What you're going to be when you grow up. Huh?
Yeah, and a couple of years ago, I was having a hard time making it through an entire day, and so I would go out and I would do interviews and talk to people, but then I realized I'm not really sure I can do this job. And I did take a position with one company. Told them when I started I did not want or didn't feel like I was going to be able to physically do anything related outside. I wanted to mostly do inside. Long story short, I ended up, because of my background and experience, a lot more outside, and my body said, no, you can't do this.
I don't think so, Tim.
So what I did have was a garage full of construction supplies. So if you're into renovating houses and flipping houses, especially during the time I was doing it was getting really hard to find certain things. So when you found them, you better buy 50 of them.
Right.
Sounds crazy, but if you got 30 projects going on, you're going to need a ton of this stuff. And so what you don't want to do is get to the end of a project and you don't have doorknobs or you don't have blinds. The time that we could not find blinds in the state of Alabama was crazy.
And this was even after COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Maybe 2021.
Trying to blank that stuff out of my mind.
22-ish. I don't know. Yeah.
But anyway, so we do have a lot of supplies that we
still need to sell.
We do, but we used to have 2 houses full. So
we've made progress.
We've made progress, but we still got a long ways to go. I probably got 100 hammers, not an exaggeration. I probably got 20 drills,
and he needs all of them.
Well, I'm getting to the point where certain ones, but
your favorites are rising to the top.
Yeah, but back then I needed all of them. I mean, I wouldn't have bought them if I didn't need them, and that's how we're making a living. So, but I probably still have, 50 doorknob sets, and we are getting down pretty low on the ceiling fans, praise the Lord, but we still have a ton of lights, light fixtures, some plumbing fixtures. Yeah. So anyway, all that to say was I was thinking, okay, how can I go about liquidating this stuff and recouping some money so that, we can help pay the bills. And we tried a flea market multiple times. Not saying we didn't sell some stuff, but for getting in the car super early in the morning, driving to this place over an hour away, setting up, sitting there the entire day, and
met lots of really nice people.
Oh yeah, it was great for conversation.
And the corn dogs were good.
But I paid for the booth. That was another thing we did before all this. We tried our best to have a booth at a flea mall. And I had access to just a ton of stuff that was going to get thrown away whenever we bought a house. And, people would leave all this stuff behind. We would throw the bulk of it in a dumpster. But there was some good stuff that people would leave behind. And, that ended up costing us money when we started factoring in how much time and energy we spent. And it was not like it was next door. It was... No. 30 minutes from here.
Now, I will say flea malls or consignment booths or whatever are not necessarily a bad idea for the right person.
Or the right location. We were blessed. They did open up one a lot closer to us. which we were pretty excited about, but it didn't last very long. We didn't make it like a year or so. I don't know. It wasn't very long.
Actually, they were open for about 3 years.
Okay. So anyway, that was not for the money, the amount of time and energy we put into it, driving there. And, it was an easier way to do this because we didn't have to man the booth. But we had to pay a good percentage of everything. Plus, we had to pay rent on the booth.
Right.
So unless you had something that a ton of people want, and it turns a lot, do I think we could have made that profitable if we had focused on it?
Yeah. Keyword, focus.
But it was definitely.
But we were renovating houses and doing that.
It was definitely out of sight, out of mind, and so we need to go buy the booth, and then especially we were definitely reminded when it was time to pay the rent.
All right.
So I didn't even have an eBay account.
I didn't know I had one.
Yeah. She had one. I don't think we've ever bought anything on eBay, but
it scared me.
Yeah, well, why did it
I was curious. Well, my understanding, and so I don't know how I ended up, maybe I was searching for something and I got on eBay, and this was several years ago. I think primarily in the beginning it was more, auctions were the norm, and that made me nervous for whatever reason. I'm not the negotiator, that. So I never had bought anything on eBay and had actually forgotten I even had an account till we started digging into this, and I went to set up an account because you were getting interested in it. And I said, oh, well, actually, I've had an account since 2020 or whatever year it was. I can't remember. So,
well, initially the plan was that we were going to set it up and we were just going to sell stuff out of the garage.
Right.
I got a little distracted.
Started watching some YouTube videos.
Yeah, started watching some YouTube videos and following some gurus, and
who have made a lot of money.
Yeah, and who have been very helpful. But remind me to come back to the fact that at some point when you get a little too far down the road, you forget about
what it's like to begin.
What it's like to start with. But so you can look at the shirt I got on. Because, I grew up where my dad had to wear a suit and tie. But half of what he did, because he worked for places like a place that makes suits, and then later for Lee Blue Jeans, and had to go to the plant. And I don't know how many times he would get his tie
caught in a piece of machinery.
Up in some machinery and that kind of stuff. So it seems crazy that they would have people wear ties. But anyway... so why in the world, would you buy something brand new if you know that, what you're going to do is going to ruin it? Well, I was building houses. So why would I buy a brand new shirt to go to a construction site? Mm-hmm. So when you can go and you can get shirts like these, this one is a Nautica. I don't, when I grab them, I don't even know what they are, but this was a Nautica. This has been a great shirt. I've had this thing forever. And
he does not lie. That's like 15 years.
Most of my pants, I did shift to just kind of Carhartt only, and a specific model of Carhartt. Mm-hmm. I kind of like not having to think about clothes. So I can just grab a different color for the day.
Which makes eBay even better for you, because you know specifically what you're looking for. You know specifically the size, the model, the color, all of that. And so when you can go to eBay and type all that in, if you're buying, then, you're finding exactly what you want, even though they probably don't make that model anymore.
Maybe not. But that's how you find things.
Right.
People who have them, and some people never wore them. And so I know that people on job sites used to look at me like, are you crazy for the clothes you're wearing out here on the job site? But I used to tell them all the time, I'm pretty sure I paid less for my shirt than you did.
With that T-shirt you're wearing.
It didn't make any difference what T-shirt they had. I was pretty sure I paid less than they did. So, kind of seeing some YouTube things, going to a thrift store, like I just naturally gravitated towards men's shirts. That's probably what I bought the most from a thrift store in the past. And I got a little carried away. I think the first time I came home with about 150.
Okay, are you talking about when you finally said, I'm going to go buy some shirts and we're going to sell them on? Yeah, he went alone. Big mistake.
Spouses
On my
don't
part.
let spouses don't let spouses
This is true. Don't.
source alone.
No.
Because the last thing we want her to do is go to the baby section. New grandchild, different subject.
Yeah.
But so anyway, I came home. I bought everything that I thought was a great deal. I didn't know nothing about sell-through rate.
I didn't know nothing about sourcing.
Oh, I didn't know nothing about eBay. I personally didn't have an eBay account. So
You still don't have an eBay account.
no, I set one up to try to
So you can look
but
from the outside.
But I don't ever look at it because we share her account. you know. But she set one up while I was gone, and so then I had to figure out, how to do this by myself. Like I wasn't really seeing the type of videos that I wanted, and so I dove in and I bought a bunch of stuff I shouldn't have bought. I listed a bunch of stuff that I shouldn't have listed.
We didn't know about sell-through rate week 1.
No, and I have different video discussion about sell-through rate. But I didn't know, what sells and what does. I bought what I thought was good quality stuff. Well, I found out that even though it's a really good high quality shirt, doesn't mean it's worth anything anymore. It's
Right.
really crazy. So, you have to learn that aspect of it of, what people actually are shopping for.
And on the flip side, the things that I would turn my nose up at, we sell regularly. So I have learned that just because it's a brand that I would not buy for you does not mean that it's not a brand that people like.
Oh, and I bought some crazy stuff. And I love it when it sells. To say, look at there.
Look at there. I was right.
No, I just think it's fun because
is.
I'm definitely of the opinion there's always somebody somewhere. Somebody bought it in the first place. Somebody thought about enough about it to make it.
Well, that's true. But, sometimes it was 20 years ago. And that makes it even more popular, which is wonderful for us.
20 years is 20 days.
I know.
So,
Yeah.
That's the only struggle I really have when I go in and look at certain things is I still think I'm 25 years old. So I'm picking out stuff that I picked out back then.
You're shaking the table.
Am I shaking? But we learned a lot of lessons.
What was I saying?
Yeah, what was I saying? We learned a lot of lessons the hard way. With Homestead, we took on too many animals in the beginning. Surprised.
And now we're talking about the homestead, not
Well, I'm just talking about Homestead, the whole entity of Homestead. We took on too many animals. I think Hope surprised herself. She surprised me. She did very well with pigs.
big pigs.
Big pigs.
Big pigs.
And-
big pigs.
Yeah, and we successfully raised them, and
they did their job.
They did their job, and so we currently don't have any pigs right now because we realized that we were still trying to figure out how to do chickens. And we free range. We're on 26 acres. You probably hear chickens right now wandering around. They make their way around the property. They don't venture too far from the house, but anyway,
They do come up to the back door.
yeah, they do remind us that they're outside. And so we had to back off because I was looking at goats. I was looking at a different breed of pigs. I was looking at sheep, quail, rabbits. All
the things.
All the things, which eventually we would, like to do a little bit more of. But we took on too much in the beginning. And infrastructure is really important. And we didn't have any. And we watched a lot of YouTubers talk about all this temporary stuff. And we did a bunch of temporary stuff. And temporary stuff is fine. But at some point...
Temporarily.
Yeah, temporarily. At some point, you need something that's a little more stable. So we kind of backed off. We were getting, meat birds, 50 at a time. I think one time we were up to
I think we had about
100,
75
7,500.
once.
So we've been grateful for egg layers lately. So, that was a plus. But that's really what we have right now. But we're still kind of backing up and it's like, okay, let's work on this infrastructure thing. So when it comes to eBay, we, mostly me, made a mistake of just, I was grabbing all kinds of stuff. And when you are first starting out, it would be wise to do a little homework before you start, if possible. Being honest, I have been out of any kind of full-time employment for quite a while. We did a lot of different things that really didn't make us any money, but I didn't have the luxury to kind of
Do it slow.
piddle around with it. I had to jump in, and so if you are working full-time somewhere else, I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing it that way. And those are some suggestions we'd like to make to you instead of, what you may or may not hear on some other channels. So, but like Hope said, we want this to be more of a community because there's going to be some stuff, some ideas that you have that we've never heard of.
Yeah, and we need to be able to, come to a video or come to a live and say, hey, we're struggling with this and we're trying to find a solution. And we need to know what other people are doing. Not necessarily the six-figure income makers that have been doing, or who have big warehouses and trucks and equipment and all that stuff. Like reasonable people who are doing this from their home or on a small scale, who still consider themselves a small business.
And don't get me wrong, there's a place for those who are got monster warehouses and all this stuff going on. That's just not us.
No, but I think it's part of, you need to know who you are and what you want.
And we use the word right size a lot. So right size for us is not necessarily right size for someone else. I mean, I don't know a lot of people who would be willing to live in a 1-bedroom, 1-bath.
No.
We would not want to live in anything any remotely bigger. We would like our garage to be set up a little bit more eBay friendly. But we would like to have where you can see this is where we do our photos, but on the other side of this table is the kitchen.
Right.
So, but that's just how that's the space we have. So anyway, we have a ton of stuff that we would like to talk about. We really wanted to get this going at roughly our 1-year anniversary. But felt like it would be wise to start doing lives for the practice. For all we know, we've been doing this live, and maybe y'all don't have any sound. I guess we'll find out. That's the difference between doing a live and doing a recorded video. Is that we have no idea if anybody hears anything or not. But there's several things. We'll kind of get into this a little bit more later. But one of the things we want people to do is to try to evaluate where they're at and where they want to be before they get started. And so some of the key things we want to talk about is like assessing your situation. And that has to do with your current time, capital, storage space, skills. But then, setting yourself realistic goals. And that's hard to do.
All of these are still things that we are
working
on ourselves. And we just would like to be able to have that conversation going with other people who are doing the same thing. Lessons that you've learned if you've been in eBay for a while, or hashing out possible solutions for things if you're starting new. We've already changed so many things that we've done, and I don't know what we expected before we started.
Well,
And
that's the deal, is that
we didn't know what
we
to
didn't
expect.
know.
Yeah.
We had no idea. And we're still learning and figuring out and don't know what we don't know.
Right.
There's a discussion about your niche, and I have a different opinion now than I had when we first started out. And I have recommendations if you're just starting out, what you might want to consider doing.
What do you think was it kind of like FOMO for you in the beginning? Like you were afraid to leave anything behind because it might sell?
Part of that was, if I can get something at a good deal, I don't want to leave anything behind. And this kind of circles back to whenever I found blinds, I bought the store out. Because what if I can't find blinds tomorrow?
We knew that you were going to need those.
And I really didn't know, like, if I go to the store today and I found 150 items, does that mean if I come back next week, was I only going to find 5? I didn't know that.
Right.
Learned that there's always something.
There's always more.
Something there.
It's always going to be more stuff.
Every day.
Even if we miss one sale day.
Yeah. Which is hard for me. But I because I've always been the general as far as a contractor goes. I've always been kind of the everything guy. I had to know all the things.
Right. And what was your advice for everybody who worked under you?
Everybody who worked under me, I always told them, you need to specialize. I know that you can do this, and you can do this, and you can do this, but you're best in this area right here, and you need to only do this and say no to all the other things. Now, we can go into this further later, but I learned at one point in my life that when I first started, I left a company and started my own company. We were doing decks, and we were doing trim, and we were doing siding, we were doing framing. Well, the deal is that each week or 2 weeks or a month, we were shifting to a different job, a different skill, different set of tools, and a different quality of employees. So, like, if I hired several guys, the whole story I could tell you about how I used to have to hire. None of this internet stuff. But when I hired a guy, if I hired him on a framing job, and then later we went to a siding job, I've realized, whoo, you're terrible at siding. You're a great framer. You are terrible. You're not allowed on a trim site.
How do you think that relates to eBay?
I think when it comes to eBay, there is a lot of things that are bright, shiny distractions. So when you go into a thrift store, there are areas in every thrift store we go to that I have never been to. There's not enough time.
Well, there's not enough time, and it's probably divine.
But if you were to go into all those areas, you would find something that's a good deal in all those areas.
Right.
But then you come home, and 1 minute you're trying to figure out, is this a good shirt or is this a bad shirt? Next minute you're trying to figure out, are these a quality dish or is it cheap stuff?
Is it silver or silver plate?
Or then you all sit over here mess around with watches, and then you got a video game. You don't know nothing about none of those things. And what that does is it frustrates you. And you will
Unless you're the type person and you just love to research everything.
Yeah, if you want to research
nonstop.
everything, and I love researching, but not this much.
Yeah.
Not this much. Because
I prefer to go deep in fewer things.
so initially starting out, if you're not in a desperate situation, you're just ready to get this thing started. Well, yeah, go in there. You're just planning on getting bare minimum 1 item to list per day. So you need 7 items for the week, and you might get 7 different things. And then going through that process, you realize, I really hate listing ties. I hate listing ties. But I love listing coffee cups.
Uh-huh.
Now, discussion we'll go into further. It doesn't make any difference if you love listing coffee cups if they don't sell. So that's a different deal. But you won't know if this is a good coffee cup or that's a good coffee cup unless you specialize in coffee cups.
And you research it.
And you research it, and you research it, and you research it, and you research it. And I promise you, a year from now, you'll still be trying to figure out what are good ones, what are bad ones,
Uh-huh.
what used to sell, what doesn't sell. I remember back when, this is showing my age, but when Beanie Babies was a huge thing, and everybody, people were fighting each other over Beanie Babies. Now you can't, they're throwing them away. So things change, and you have to stay up on that. But if you're having to stay up on 50 different types of items, you're going to lose your mind.
I think the thing that would stress me out about it being an everything seller would be shipping. Having to figure out shipping on different items, and
You almost
know.
need a whole room, a whole bedroom dedicated to all the different types of boxes and wrapping and filler and everything else that you would need. Because even with our situation, we're mostly men's clothes. We still have to have different kind of boxes for ties and different ones for sport coats. We kind of use the same things for pants and shirts, but they're not the same size. So we can't just buy, 1,000 of these. We have to have a bunch of this one and a bunch of this one and a bunch of this one. So,
But I do love being able to look at something and I can tell you, oh, yeah, you need to charge $8.97 for that.
yeah, and you want to
shipping.
know that
If you're-
doing something different every time, because then you're going to have to, every single listing, you're going to have to figure out what the shipping is going to be for every single listing.
I'm
So-
sure that there are people that do ship everything, and they've been doing it for a long enough period of time that they can look at an item and in their head they can calculate it and they can get very close. I don't have that confidence.
I mean, that takes
So
time.
I don't need the stress for that.
That takes time because I have looked into the fact that maybe we should just focus on one item, and at this point we're at what 2,100
Over 2,100
active listings.
Uh-huh.
So we've listed a whole lot more than that because we've sold a lot of those. Praise the Lord. But it's a little hard for us to pivot. We can start not picking up certain things, which we have been doing that. Things that just don't sell. But for someone who's just starting out, if you can, like I said, initially, until you can figure out what your niche is, because it's going to depend. When you go to your thrift store, you may find quilts
Yeah.
and find a ton of them every single time you go into the thrift store. Currently, we are in a situation when we never can find jeans
Oh, yeah.
at a
Men's-
reasonable price. So we get
Yeah.
very few jeans, and if you're saying, well, jeans is my thing, then you just have complicated your life. But maybe where you are, jeans are easy to come by. I watch some people that find, I've always loved outdoor gear, and find a lot of high-end outdoor gear, which we never see.
Right.
And the few that we do see need to be thrown in the trash. So, but like I said, if you're trying different things and then you're starting to see, you know what, I can find thousands of these, and I can get them at a super good price. Maybe this is what.
My thing needs to be.
And we'll work through that together on things that you can figure out, and which would make this a lot more streamlined. It would lean it up for you. Don't let anybody tell you this is passive. If they're telling you
No.
this is passive, they're lying to you.
Or part-time.
Yeah, this is not part-time. We do this 7 days a week. Now, we try our best to try to shut down from Saturday evening to Sunday evening, and take a Sabbath as best we can.
We are much better now at that than we were for the first 8 months.
But, it's not uncommon for us to still be doing this at 9 o'clock at night. So it's not simple, passive.
No.
It would be easier if this was just a side gig and not our full-time deal. But if this is what you want to do full-time, you
Right.
you want to avoid a year's worth of mistakes we made.
That's true. But also, I don't want to scare anybody either by saying that you got to work 24/7. I mean, you do need to. Well, you set your limits for if you're going to answer messages or whatever back and forth around the clock. But we do have the ability and the freedom to be able to say we're going to sit down at noon and record a podcast, record a podcast.
Or let's just take a break and drink a cup of coffee for a second.
Right.
Let's talk. But, part of me does want to scare people, because if I scare you off, then you won't go down this road
And then blame me.
and then blame me. But that it's painful, because you don't want to put we put a ton of stuff in a bunch of different things. Many of them do not pan out. That's just part of it.
It's part of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to do this, you're going to have to try different things, and this right now is moving in the right direction. Best thing that's been working for us for the last 4 or 5 years, and so we're definitely see it on the uphill climb, and we can do it together. We can do it at home. We both enjoy it. We enjoy some parts more than others.
Well, we're both also gifted differently, so I think that's one of the things that I was appreciating yesterday. The fact that we both have areas that we enjoy more in the business than the other, and I think we're both seeing one another's gifting surface even more so, and coming up on 1 year now, I think that this has been good for our marriage, because we've grown in how we work together. And I think years and years of working in a high pressure construction environment took its toll on both of us.
Mm-hmm. It did. It did. I mean,
so this year's been about a lot of healing.
well, it's been several years of healing, and you don't fix 40 years of high stress work in 4 years, and so
No.
that's still a process. But
I'm thankful that at this age, we finally realized. I think, we realized it a couple of years ago that what we've been doing we can't continue to do because it's killing us.
yeah, and that's something else we'll talk about, is that it's very hard when you're 20, 25 years old and thinking about doing this or anything. It's very hard at that point to think about, can you still do that when you're 60?
Yeah.
And that's where the community comes into play, where someone can really, who's got the gray beard. There's no hair up here, but I got the gray beard, and I got the T-shirt. I got a bunch of T-shirts.
Right.
And I can tell you, now, you're probably not going to listen, because I don't think we would have been willing to
No.
listen.
I think there are a lot of people, though, that are in the same boat that we are, who realize that they could retire from what they're doing, but they know that they're going to need to do something. Financially, we can't afford to not work, and physically, we also can't afford to not work, because if we stop moving, we won't be able to move. Mm-hmm. So
Yeah, I'm hungry for sourcing days to get out and move and walk around and interact with others. But this also, we can have a discussion later about your personalities, because there's a way to do this as an introvert. There's a way to do this as an extrovert. We're kind of in the
Yeah.
middle.
I think it's this. I think an eBay store is an awesome business for an introvert because you don't you rarely have to make a phone call, and I know a lot of people don't like to do that. You laugh, but a lot of people don't like to have to do that. They don't like to have to confront people, and
That was my job for
well,
something years, is confronting people.
But anyway, I think it's an incredible job for an introvert to be able to work independently, but it's also a great job that you can do as a couple
Yeah.
or a team of some sort.
Yeah. And just like anything, like when we were, before we went overseas, different discussion, we need to be on the same page. And if you're not, if you're trying to do this with a couple and the two of y'all are not on the same page,
Yeah.
hit us up. We can talk to you about the pluses and minuses about all that. But I have heard from extroverts that they do struggle and feel like loneliness and depression is an issue for them. And so finding community with people who actually want to talk about eBay.
Right.
Now we can talk about more than
We'll
eBay.
talk eBay all day, every
We can talk
day.
eBay. We can talk homesteading. We can talk construction. That kind of stuff. Church, different things like that. But what we probably have zero people in our immediate circle who want to talk about eBay. So, and that's something.
So if you're like us in that, join us, subscribe. That's another thing I need to mention too, is that we're a small channel, and we are new at going live, and so we are limited right now in how far our our reach is. So because we are in that, we have more than 50 subs, but we have less than 1,000. So we're limited to like 25 viewers plus anyone who is subscribed to us. So when we go live again, hopefully next Thursday at noon Central Time, if you subscribe to the channel, hopefully you'll be able to get notified when we go live, and we'll make a post.
If you do get notified as a subscriber, let us know, because we think that's how it works, is that you'll get subscribed. But if you are not a subscriber and you catch one of these or watch it after the fact,
probably,
then hit subscribe so that you get notified next time if you're interested in this type of material, because we really are looking forward to having conversations. We look forward to people saying, hey, let's talk about this next time when we go live.
Yeah, if you have ideas, anything that you're struggling with, we have a long list of things that we're trying to find answers to, and we'd love to hash it out and let's talk about it together.
Yeah, and if you're in North Alabama,
yes,
we are. We just found out not too long ago that eBay approved us to be kind of like a community.
I forget what it's called, like reseller, community leader, or something. So we need to schedule at the very least, a virtual meeting. But we'd love to find a central location in North Alabama for people in our area to meet in person.
So that being said, we're going to log off and see if we successfully
have sound.
Have sound, and because we bought these some of this paraphernalia a long time ago. We used it a couple times, and then it's just been getting dusty ever since. So hopefully this all.
So maybe the purchase was actually for today.
Maybe so.
This is a new beginning.
We look forward to doing this again next week, and it getting better and better. So anyway, hope everybody's having a great sales week. Ours has been it
was okay. It was very slow this morning,
it's still,
but we've had some very good days.
Yeah.
And we've heard a lot of other people were having lousy days. So
last week
very
was
thankful.
much better. Week
Yeah.
before that was pretty good. So hopefully it'll turn back around. But anyway, hope y'all have a blessed week, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.